So today we're going to talk a little bit about a video that the Daily Wire put out as one of these roundtable discussions called This Is Where It All Went Wrong. And in it they talk a lot about the red pill movement and how a lot of guys are turning to MGTOW, men going their own way. And they really are doing a lot of hand waving about it and telling men that it's their fault that what's happening is happening to them. And it really is a let them eat cake moment for the Daily Wire. And I just don't, this is just another example of how these people have just seemingly lost touch. To say lost touch doesn't even quite cover this. It feels like they've lost their damn minds. I think the latest statistic out is that about 60% of men right now in America are not dating and or not having sex, which I suppose are two different things. And I think about a third of women are not dating or having sex. They talk about it themselves in a major way, and yet for some reason they keep trying to pretend like the MGTOW movement, the red pill movement, is this silly little Twitter group that won't stop complaining about how bad life is for them and how things need to turn around. Either way, I mean, look. Well, let me start with this. Let me start with a little story. And it's not even going to have anything to do with my dating life or sex, which I could definitely talk about as well. I find it very fascinating that the overall take from the Daily Wire here is ultimately it doesn't matter what the dangers of sex and dating are to you right now, and or marriage. Really, what they're talking about is you got to get married because the nuclear family is the basis of all society, which is true. That is true. But the question starts to become at what cost do we just keep on keeping on? And at what point do men finally just say, "Hey, slow down. Let's take a step back and adapt to the circumstances," right? I'm in the market for a new car. It doesn't need to be a new car. It can be a used car, but it has to be a different car. The car that I currently have has great features on it, but I need different features. I'd like something that's a little higher off the ground. I'd like something with all-terrain tires. I'm becoming a little bit more outdoorsy lately. And luckily, a lot of the car market is turning in that direction as well, because I'm not the only one. But the car market itself has been nuts. It's been insane. And the prices have gone completely bonkers. I've been talking to professionals who work in the industry for a while, and they are truly at a loss for what is going on and why it's happening. Because at a certain point, you expect that prices go high enough that people finally stop buying this stuff. And then the prices go down. That is the old free market conservative idea. That at a certain point, people will finally say no. And for some reason, they're not saying no. They just keep marching forward. They just keep buying these cars at insane prices. I remember one of the things I was originally looking at was the new Bronco. Ford came out with the new, improved, off-road, full-blown Bronco that was supposed to be a Jeep Wrangler alternative. And you could not get this thing for, in many cases, less than $10,000 to $20,000 above MSRP. mind you, before like 2020, before the world started to end, you bought below MSRP. If you bought at MSRP, you were a clown, right? That was the old joke. I actually have heard this joke before. That's the kind of person that buys MSRP. The, there were moments where the Ford Bronco was so lusted after by fools that they were doing things like paying 60 or 70 grand over MSRP in some cases. At the very least, I remember that is what was being asked for them because they were so rare and people didn't want to wait. So they just went barreling in. And I don't think any one of us would say that that's a good idea. You shouldn't do that, obviously. Obviously. If the price is too high for something, you should not buy it. And when idiots go and buy it anyway, they actually kind of screw up the market. I actually went and test drove something recently. I was at a dealership and I was talking to a salesman, and he had me sitting down in his little cubicle, and we were talking about the possibility of maybe getting a lease for this thing. I think we were doing a credit check. And I finally asked him, I said, because I'm looking at the number sheet and I go, look, why are people buying at these prices? And of course I expect him, I'm not going to expect the truth from this guy, obviously, but I do expect him to a certain extent to have an answer of some kind, and I'd just love to hear what he's been told to say, you know what I mean? And he goes, because cars aren't an option. They're a necessity. And, I fired back with like, well, look, a car is a necessity. A new car is not a necessity. And he wasn't happy about that one. My point and how it connects to this stuff is that we have been witnessing for the last few years, and especially in the last year, consumerism gone awry. Awry. Just mind rot stuff of people just maniacally buying things at any price, at any cost. I'm not even exactly sure why. I have my notions about the fact that maybe it's some kind of retail therapy or something. Or maybe the fact that a lot of people just feel like this is their last chance, like the apocalypse really is coming, and they just think if I don't do it now, when? But there's a lesson in that, right? It's so interesting that the Fed just keeps raising the interest rate. And they've been holding that interest rate high, thinking that people are going to stop buying. And they've turned the world upside down so badly that people will not stop buying. They're scared. I saw the term doom spending, and it makes so much sense. But I think that your average, normal, rational human being who isn't scared that way can honestly look at that situation and say, you guys got to stop buying at these prices. This is crazy. There is a price in which things become too high. And if you are not a consumerist fool, you will not pay that price. And that's really, when you distill it down, all that the red pill community seems to be saying right now. Now, I understand that there are people who are very, very toxic out there. I get that. I do. And if all this was 15 minutes of the Daily Wire talking about how those particular people, that particular group set, needs to be a little bit more careful about what they're saying, fine. But you can't just keep ignoring a group like the Red Pill movement. It's huge. It's enormous. Give it a little bit of grace. Ask yourself what's really going on. Be curious. A little, please. Please. Be a little curious about what's going on. And I find it so ironic that these supposed conservatives, who are supposed to be, in theory, anti-consumerist, supposedly, right? These are the spiritualists, the religious, the Christian, those who do not walk in this world. They'll leave that to the lesser leftists. Will make the same argument that the salesman at the dealership was making. You gotta buy. You gotta buy at any price. What are you gonna do? Not have a new car? What are you gonna do, stupid? What are you gonna do? You're gonna walk out of here without a brand spanking new vehicle? What are you, crazy? You can't just do stuff like that. That's nuts. And at a certain point, we have got to start talking about the same thing, because the entire purpose that they think the nuclear family has, it seems, is to sort of maintain societal standards, maintain societal norms. Okay. But what if the price is too high, Jeremy? What if the price is too high, Matt? It should be said that a lot of these people, I think they're all married at this point. And I think as well, a lot of them have married people they trust who are of the same religion, and they did it very early in life. That's a good thing. I think that makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, and I think that that is a pretty good way to maintain some sense that your marriage is going to do okay. On the other hand, Steven Crowder is going through a massively horrible divorce. So what are we supposed to say about that? Because whether, if you're pro marriage and you're pro Steven Crowder, your response is obviously that guy picked right. That guy did it the correct way. That guy married young. That guy married within his religion. They shared values, and they split ways anyway. All right, let's just get into this and see what happens.
Evolved over the last 5 years to essentially now mean I would say anti-woman. They would say pro-man, but I think it's far beyond pro-man. I think it's decidedly anti-woman in many ways. And you see people who, I think some of them are bad actors who are peddling, but then you also see people like Pearly Things who, I don't know Pearl. I don't know if she's a bad actor or not. I kind of get the sense that maybe she's just a naive person being kind of dragged along out of half desire to be famous and half probably hasn't read a book. And half of that I can relate to.
But the other half you can also relate to.
But I do think it's this interesting question that is harder to talk about in one-on-one settings. It might be befit this format. Just to talk about what is the role of men and women, what is the role of marriage in a society that has essentially turned its back on the concept of marriage, that is legally encoded anti-man policies
and then
into our legal code.
The definition of marriage.
Abolish the definition.
It's not anti-men. They've abolished.
Before we even get into any questions about what's going on here, I do have to also point out, this is just such a bad look for some reason. I don't know why. This is... The cigars and scotch thing has got to stop. I don't know. I don't know when exactly this all became in with conservatives, but it just seems so decadent right now in this time. I don't know they're even look at that wall of alcohol behind them, just shelf after shelf after shelf. Calm down, you know what I mean? Calm down. I get it. It's supposed to be like a lounge, and I love the aesthetic of that personally. I do, but there is something about a bunch of guys sitting around smoking cigars talking about how they know how the world works that is just so obnoxious.
Difference. They've abolished the difference between men.
The distinction itself.
Yeah.
You know, I just went on the Whatever podcast for my, I think it's now my 28th hour on that show.
That was 6 hours.
After a 3-hour debate on the show. So I
That
did
was a separate thing?
Yeah, I did 9 hours.
did 9
basically
hours?
straight. Yeah,
Whoa.
but it was worth it.
How?
It was
Why?
great. It was great. I really love that show. I love it because
He got almost every question.
when I did it the first time.
You couldn't pay me. You pay me $1 million, I wouldn't.
No, I love it because these poor girls, man. The whole thing with that show, which is why it's so funny, is you get.
Hold on,
girls-
I'll pay you $10,000.
You're really gonna do it.
We're rich. Like, come on, like, look at that laugh. Look at the cigar in his hands. This just total douche canoe moment. And, you got Jeremy Boring, talking about throwing money around like that. It's just, who is your audience? I don't understand what this is.
Like 11. No, the thing with that show that makes it very funny is that guys go on and they make fun of these girls who have OnlyFans who are like 18 and don't know anything. And then the guys completely destroy them. And then the girls look like dummies. And then the clip goes viral. And I felt it would be wrong to do that. I felt I might get a lot of views, but I might also burn in hell for eternity. And I thought about it for a moment. And then I thought, no, okay, I won't do it. And so I went on. And
I also have a rule: never give the audience what they want.
Yeah, exactly. I never, I went on a great.
Michael knows.
I mean, the jokes present themselves at this point. That Ben Shapiro would even say that. As a rule, too easy.
Course, about the Treaty of Augsburg. So I go on there, and I just felt it's not these girls' fault. All of them have some weird family situation. None of them. We live in a culture that teaches them a ton of lies. They have no education. Even if they went to good schools, they have no education. They don't. So I felt, okay, let's just talk about what's really going on here. And they're victims of feminism, and the red pill guys are victims of feminism. And the irony about the red pill guys, I sympathize with them a lot of ways. The family courts are totally stacked against dudes. The culture promotes divorce and abolished the definition of marriage and blah, blah, blah. But the red pill guys are feminists. Their sense of men and women is basically
That's
this.
right.
It's just that men and women are interchangeable.
Yes.
And go around, screw around, you owe nothing to women. If it's good for women, it's good for men. And that's just a lie. The fundamental unit of society is actually not the individual.
Right.
I love individual rights. It's good to be an individual. The fundamental unit of society is the family. It's men and women together.
So this is where it becomes kind of difficult to talk about what is being said here, because the thing is, I don't know if what he's seen on Twitter. And at this point, I think these people are so removed from regular old society that they think that Twitter is real and that the people who talk on it are to be listened to and should be treated as if they are the average American, the average voter, the average experience. But what this doesn't get to is that a lot of men feel that way that he just described. The courts are stacked against you, and if you get divorced, that women cannot ultimately be trusted in a lot of ways, that you can totally trust somebody and think that they are one way. And there are just too many stories out there, and I have some, where you are shocked to find out that a year in, 2 years in, this person was lying to you the whole time, that they didn't believe any of the things that they said, that they don't share your values at all. And so, again, we come back to the problem. If the price is too high, you got to be careful. I mean, at what point? At what point do you stop buying? At what point does the consumerism end?
Who have a love that becomes so real that you make more people.
Well, to have an atom, you have to have a proton and an electron, right? So it's like a man is a proton, like very important, but essentially nothing until it's
to
unified.
have Adam, you need to have an Eve.
No,
That's where I thought he was going.
that's where I thought he was
And
going.
then I was
to.
gonna, I thought he was gonna go for the Steve thing, and I was just gonna.
That's why I,
Not Steve.
A little moment of self-awareness there where Jeremy says something so cringe that everybody's got to, someone's got to make a joke, you know? That's got to end. It's got to end. This is something conservatives like to do where here's what's really happening here. The argument that is being attempted is that what they are arguing for is natural. And that's always been the conservative take, that what we are asking for here is going to win out in the end, because what we are saying is true. And it is nature. It's nature taking its course. It's nature doing nature's thing. Man, woman, it's sort of like a proton and electron. You need one and you need the other, don't you? And it's a tired trope. It's a tired argument. It's strained at best. It's a tortured little point. And I think the reason that it's so tortured is that what they are refusing to acknowledge is that what men are doing makes sense. That men are rejecting women and walking away from women because they don't want to deal with this stuff anymore makes sense. Can you imagine any one of these guys? First of all, these people, I don't think almost any of these guys could walk up to a girl in a Starbucks and ask for her number. And be successful, I should say. Not look like a total creep. And it's not, just take 20 years off of their age. Let's say they were young and beautiful still, and they weren't 35 to 55-year-old men. I think Clavin might be able to get away with it. Matt Walsh is such a, sourpuss. I can't even imagine that going well. And maybe Nowles, because he's so pretty. But none of these guys have the charisma to do what they're asking men to do. All these people met their wives and girlfriends, as far as I can tell, within some kind of prefabricated social circle. And they're laughing at the rest of us who actually have to go out and find people out there in the jungle. And it's crazy out there. There have been a couple of times where I have considered walking up and asking a girl for a number, and you just start to realize it could all go wrong so fast. All it takes is that she takes it the wrong way, or she hears a word she doesn't like the way I look. Maybe I am way out of her league, and she's gonna prove it to the world. So she pulls out her phone and she tells everybody I'm a creep, and it's over. Your life is over. Anybody Googles you and somehow someone figures out it's you and attaches your name to that stupid little video, even if it is, or a picture, God forbid, it's over. You're a creep now for the rest of your life. These things have to be done carefully. And I don't know what these people, I mean, that this is the point of the whole video for me, is, and many others, as the comments show. These people don't get it, and they don't want to get it, and they just want to keep living in the ivory tower of theory forever and ever and ever.
I've always
Two protons an atom does not make. I dare say.
I've always with the red pill, and I've been in many altercations with the red. I've run afoul of the red pill crowd many times talking about these issues. And the question I've always had for them that they've never answered, and I'd love to hear an answer from any of them, is that, because I agree with 95% of their criticisms, as you point out, the family courts and how it's stacked against men and so on and so forth. What's the other option? okay, we agree with all that. So then men should just.
You got to get that new car, baby. You got to get that new car. What are you going to do? Walk away from the dealership without a new car? Come on, man. It doesn't matter how bad the deal is. You can't walk out of here without the brand new car.
Just be alone and give up on their bloodline and die, and their bloodline is extinguished. Like what you are suggesting is despair. You are telling men that men are already feeling despair. They're feeling meaninglessness. They're feeling lost. They're feeling.
So there's 2 points here now that he's making. He's moved past the first one with some speed, and I have a feeling that may have been on purpose, because that first point was beyond stupid, right? First of all, it has always been a sort of conservative notion that blood doesn't matter. It's a very American idea that says that we don't care where you come from. You do not have some kind of original sin for being white. That all comes back to the fact that we cannot be, we can't be racist. We can't be racist one way or another. That was always a very conservative thing. And for this guy to sort of come out the gate with this idea that bloodline matters, as an American especially, is bizarre. Who cares? Who cares? Honestly. Are you going to tell me that you, Matt Walsh, need to maintain your bloodline for reasons other than, I mean, you're not royal in any sense. You're not particularly beautiful in any real way. There's nothing inherent about the blood that matters, is it? Isn't it weird? It's a weird thing to even say. What are you going to do? Just let your bloodline go out and then you die? That's it for you? That's life? It's such a bizarre focus in life on this idea that if you're not having children, that you have wasted your life somehow. It's strange, isn't it? It's a weird thing. It's especially weird to come from religious people. Because religious people ultimately tend to believe that there is something beyond us, that we are, as individuals, not worthy and yet receiving of God's love, and that there is something far beyond us. That we as individuals, and that we, if we could know God's wisdom, would not care one whit what happens on this earth. But that we should care about it because it's made by Him for a reason. That this is a pageant of sorts, and that we should care about our purpose in life, because our purpose in life ultimately is to have a relationship with God. That the rest is egotism and silliness. And this is the argument they put out? I don't know. So let's get to the second one.
Alone. They're feeling like everything's stacked against them. And so your answer to them is, yeah, well, be in despair and then die. And my point is that's just not an okay answer. That can't be the answer.
Bizarre point here. I think we're going to end this here so that this doesn't go too long and my laptop doesn't explode every time I have to upload a video. We'll do like a part 2, 3, and probably 4. It looks like. I think that it is so strange that is what he gets out of the MGTOW movement, when there is so much more to life than sex. It's really weird that ultimately what he's saying, in a sense, is that there is not that if you are not having sex with your wife and making children, that you're not doing nothing. And what's really strange about it is that I have to admit, I don't really know why we should listen to these people. I get that they're married and that they have a perspective that non-married people might have. But the MGTOW people are pretty varied. It's not just people who never got married or had a bad experience with their girlfriends. It's people who got divorced and are warning other people about what happens when you step into that courtroom. It's a lot of people who are saying, I experienced this myself. And those people aren't saying to drop dead. Those people aren't telling you to just sit with your thumb up your ass and die. Matt, you lunatic. What are you talking about? Are you a Christian or not? Do you believe in a God or not? If you truly believe in divinity, then life isn't just spit out kids and die. That's really your version of events. That everything you do has to be this bizarre, headlong struggle to mate like an animal. And then you sprinkle it with this cute little fairy dust that gives it that little pinch of humanity. So that the way that you put it, you can say that what you care about is your bloodline. And so I care about my bloodline. It must continue. No, it doesn't. And there's more to life than this. There really is. Get to it. Get to it. Pick up a hobby, man. Pick up a hobby. You know, this is the kind of talk that you get from guys who just don't have any time left. You know what I mean? They don't have any time left in their day. And I get that, by the way. I totally understand. Think about it. This guy, he wakes up in the morning. He's probably got like 3 to 5 kids at this point. He's got to get him to school. He's got to get him fed for breakfast. Maybe his wife does that, but he's got to get ready for work. Maybe he's doing show prep or something like that. You know, the wife is rushing the kids to school, and then she's got a full day, presumably, at the house doing things and administrating. And then he's off to work. And then after that, it's more show prep. And once you do the show, you got to do prep for the next day, blah, blah, blah. Maybe. I don't know how much these guys are really doing. But even if you're not working that hard, let's say they really do just work when they're on camera, which I doubt. But then you got to go back home, and you know, the kids come home and they've got after school activities, and you got to rush them around, and you got to get them to soccer practice and stuff like that. Yeah, you don't have a lot of time for yourself after that. I get that. I do. But not everybody can be so lucky. And that's what this is. That's what they are. They're living these charmed lives. That is a charmed life. I wanted that for myself. I don't have it for a reason. Things didn't go well, and it's not my fault. There are plenty of people in the MGTOW community. I don't even consider myself a red pillar. I don't. I don't consider myself an MGTOW guy either. I wouldn't mind going on a date if I could find somebody that I trusted, that I thought I could really go someplace with. But I wanted what these guys have. At one time, I wanted something very simple. I wanted to get out of the city. That didn't happen. I'm still in the city. But I'm working on it. And I wanted some kind of truck or Jeep type thing sitting in a driveway, a house of moderate size, not too small, not too big. I wanted a wife and a couple of kids and maybe some animals, a dog and a cat or something like that. It's real simple. None of it happened. None. And that's okay. My life is going just fine. I live a charmed life too. But there is a point where these people need to wake up and realize that they are living so well that they got lucky, if they did get lucky, because frankly, in many cases, again, depending on how you look at it, Steven Crowder found this out too, where people are just waiting for the divorce. They don't know it's coming, but it's coming. And they're gonna say what everybody else says when it happens. I had no idea. It came out of nowhere. oh man, and but at what, I wonder what they would say then, Crowder, from what I understand, Crowder is still pushing for marriage. He's still telling people to get out there and get married. Okay. All right. Maybe nobody's learning anymore. I don't know. Let's break here so that my laptop doesn't explode. And thanks for listening, and thanks for letting me rant to you guys. It's been fun.